Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Round 17 is a wrap. We're going to be doing a review on all 9 matches. So sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to follow if you haven't already. And yeah, this was the weekend of football. Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 46 of season 2025, and we have a round 17 to review today. 9 matches over the weekend happened. We're going to go through them all. Finally, the bye rounds are over. We've got a full slate of games to go through. It was top 9 v bottom 9 in the AFL, and we're going to go through all the matches. There weren't many upsets. In fact, every single favourite won across the weekend. But we'll go through all the games, have a look at the best players, the best teams, everything you need to know from the weekend of football. While there were no upsets according to the odds, and I mean most people probably tipped 9 out of 9, there was one bottom 9 team that beat a top 9 team, which just changes a little bit the ladder, and puts one team in a little bit of trouble, down to 9th spot, and maybe 10th on the ladder has a slight chance on getting back in and somehow making finals, which would be an unbelievable story. But without any further ado, let's jump into the games that happened over the weekend. As I said, there was 9 matches. We started on Thursday night, as we do pretty much every single week this year, and it was North Melbourne celebrating their 100 years against the Bulldogs, who earlier this year celebrated their 100 years. And I mean, kind of like that game. Bulldogs celebrated their 100th and got beaten. North Melbourne here celebrate their 100th and get beaten by the Dogs. Pretty comfortable in the end. 49-point winners were the Bulldogs. It was, I won't say an overly competitive game. There were periods of this where it certainly could have gone either way. The first half was pretty close until the Bulldogs kicked the last 2 just before half time to give them a 13-point lead. It went back and forward a little bit for the first 15 minutes of that third quarter. It was within a kick halfway through the quarter, but then from then on it was Bulldogs and a Bulldogs only. Their midfielders getting goals, their key forwards, mainly Aaron Norton, getting goals. Sam Darcy piped up for a few late in that fourth quarter. In the end, pretty comfortable win. 20 goals, 14 for the Doggies, 13-7 for North Melbourne. North were never going to be able to win this game if it ended up Doggies kicking 20 goals. It was pretty high scoring first half, 10 goals to 8. So yeah, Kangaroos just couldn't stop Bulldogs from scoring. And we did say in the podcast preview episode, which came out last Thursday, there was always going to be an issue with North being able to stop this Bulldogs team from scoring, because they can score really high, and North Melbourne not really well known at being able to stop other teams from scoring over the last 3 or 4 years, and this year is no different to that. So it kind of went a long way as we expected in many ways. A look at some of the key team stats, as you can see on, if you're watching this video. If you're not watching the video, we have graphics up for each match, but basically, we do a team rating here at All Aussie Rules every single game. Basically, just rates every player and team. And the team ratings for this one suggest the Bulldogs were way and clearly streets ahead of the Kangaroos. 49-7-4 for the Doggies, which is a pretty high score. It's not massive, but it's a pretty high score. And if you go for about 48, it's very good. Kangaroos are 41-7-3. Not too bad for them. Their average is probably about that 42.5, so not too far from that, in all honesty. They played certainly not their worst game of football. That's about what we'll say from the team ratings. But Bulldogs clearly in front in terms of that. In the stats categories, the Bulldogs had an extra 30-odd touches. The ball was in their forward half 60% of the time, so they did have a lot of it in their forward half. They also had plus 22 inside 50s, plus 12 intercepts. They just controlled pretty much everything they need to. Kangaroos, were really good out of the clearance game, plus 6. But outside of that, it was one-way traffic most of the way. End up being 36 shots to 23. So no surprise. Bulldogs were expected winners, and they did win the game. They even tackled better than Kangaroos, +8 in the tackles. They chained the ball really well, especially from the back line. Above average in pretty much every category there, whereas the Kangaroos were well below the AFL average, but even slightly below their normal average. So that just shows you that the Bulldogs managed to move the ball way too easily in this game, and Kangaroos really struggled in that area. If you're looking at score sources, the Bulldogs did it from turnover, scoring 98 to 28. I think there's about 7 or 8 instances so far this year of teams going over 100 from turnover. Bulldogs weren't very close in this one with 98. That shows how good they were from turnover in this game. They did have those extra, 10 or so intercepts for the game, but they really converted them as well. Kangaroos did score from stoppage, 51 to 36, so +15. A little bit of a concerning area for the Bulldogs, I think, is their the amount of points they concede from stoppages, and also their inability to score from stoppages. It's certainly the one probably factor that they have right now that isn't going that well for the team. From defensive half, both teams pretty similar, 43-38, but it was forward half, and that was all turnovers. 82 to 17, massive domination from the Bulldogs. And once again, just like all stoppages, but North Melbourne particularly good from centre bounce. It's how they started their season, scoring quite heavily from centre bounce, but they went through a massive period where they just weren't scoring at all from the centre bounce. But this one, they turned that around. 5 goals straight, 30, to the Bulldogs 1 goal 3, 9. Basically sums up everything you need to know in regards to that. What else do we need to talk about from this game? A couple key forwards kicked a lot of goals. Nick Larkey for the Kangaroos, he had 4 in the first quarter, 4 goals, 1. Kicked a point after the siren. Could have almost had 5 goals in that first quarter. Ended the game with 5-1, so it did slow down from that period, but a really, really good first quarter. And then for the Doggies, it was Norton with 5 and Sam Darcy 4 goals. Most of that work done in the second half by Sam Darcy, but Norton was really good all the way through. So some big key forwards kicking goals. First game of the weekend. You look at the stats for this one. Tom Liberatore actually rated as the highest rated player in the All Aussie Rules rating system this weekend. He had an absolutely fantastic game in his 250th. 27 touches, 16 contested, 7 inside 50s, 6 intercepts, 2 goals. There's not much that this bloke can't do. We've given him the 3 Brownlow votes. Colby McKercher I've given 2. I don't know for sure if he will get them, but he had a lot of the football, and I think the umpires will see that. Marcus Bontempelli I've gone 1. Other people that could be in the conversation, obviously Norton for his 5 goals. Larkey could for his 5, but I think he quietened off after quarter time, so didn't get a lot of the football after that. Kennedy was good. Ed Richards probably a little bit quieter compared to the rest of his season, which has been outstanding. So yeah, they're probably the key names in it. MVP voting. If you're new around here, we do MVP votes for every single game. Top 5 players for every team gets votes based on the All Aussie Rules rating system. The winning team gets 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 for their top 5, and then for the losing team, they get half of that, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All based on our rating system that we do. So these are the highest rated players for the match. For the Bulldogs, who won, Tom Liberatore, as I said, he's the highest rated player all weekend. I think the 4th highest rated game of anybody so far this season. He was outstanding. He gets the 10. Bontempelli also was outstanding. He gets the 8. Norton, for his 5 goals, gets 6. Tim English was really solid in the ruck. He gets 4. He got forward and kicked goals, certainly early. He may have been beaten a fair bit by Cherry in the ruck work and probably the clearance side of things, but he did sneak forward and kick goals, so that's pretty beneficial for his team. Matthew Kennedy gets the 2. For the Kangaroos, Tristan Cherry was outstanding in the actual ruck duel. Colby McKercher had a lot of the ball. He gets 4. Nick Larkey, as we said, multiple times. He kicked 5 goals. He gets 3 votes. Harry Sheasel, he was back to more towards his best this week. He gets 2. He had 22 touches. was very important for the team, and Tom Powell gets the 1 vote. So that's pretty much everything we have for North Melbourne versus the Bulldogs. Pretty much went how we expected it to, I think, in the end. Bulldogs will be pretty happy with that, in all honesty. Kangaroos, they won't be that disappointed. They weren't probably expecting to win it, but 100-year celebrations, maybe they wanted to win there. Looking forward to next week. So Bulldogs are 6th on the ladder after this game. They've got themselves a really big game next week against Adelaide, who are 3rd on the ladder. It's at Marvel Stadium. It's a really good opportunity for the Bulldogs to try and break towards that top 4. They win this one against the Crows, which I would imagine they'll go in as favourites, being at Marvel Stadium. This is their chance. This is their chance to really make a statement against one of the better teams in the competition. So, massive game. That's Saturday afternoon. There's a couple really good games of football next weekend, and that's one of the better ones. Kangaroos, they don't play again until Sunday. It's going to be at the MCG, so that starts off being a tough one. It's against the Demons, who are 14th on the ladder. Kangaroos are currently 16th on the ladder. Demons played pretty well against Adelaide this weekend, so it might be an okay game, that one, to watch. I would imagine Melbourne probably take care of them just due to the fact that it's at the MCG, but we'll see how that plays out come next weekend. Let's jump into a Friday night football, and for whatever reason, we had a double header on Friday night. It started with Carlton v Collingwood, MCG. Two of the oldest rivals in the game going head to head, and like it has done for many or most of their recent matchups, it was Collingwood coming out on top, kicking 17-13, 115 to Carlton's 8-11, 59. They ended up winning it by 56 points. Pretty comfortable in the end. It was pretty competitive first quarter and a little bit. But from that point on, Collingwood kind of tore them apart. It was a lot of the damage was done in the third quarter. It was 8 goals 4 to 2-4 in that third quarter. So outscored them by 36 points in the third quarter. And that was all they needed to do. They turned it on when they needed to. I don't think there was any real periods of this game that we were really seeing Carlton winning it. I don't think, but it was just a weird sort of game in many ways. When we look at the full stat sheet, before we get to that, team ratings done by us at All Aussie Rules. Collingwood a 52-37, which is actually one of their better performances of the year. Carlton a 41-84, which is one of their lower ranked games, in all honesty. It's not their worst of the year, but it's not that far from it, to be honest. So a really good performance from Collingwood. Carlton certainly didn't bring it in this game, though. Disposal-wise, Collingwood had plus 40. They're not always the most high disposal team of the competition, but they certainly outperformed Carlton in that area here. Forward half-time, 54.6% Collingwood, so pretty decent number there. Contested football, plus 18 for Collingwood. That's crazy numbers. Carlton are one of the best over the last 3 or 4 years at contested football, and Collingwood typically aren't. They don't win that area too often, so that's a concerning sign there for Carlton. Carlton did win the clearances, plus 9. Once again, that's not an area of Collingwood's game that they're really that good at, though. Intercepts, plus 9 for Collingwood. The first quarter and a half, Collingwood were a little bit sloppy with the ball and having the same amount of turnovers as Carlton through that period, which, if you know much about Collingwood's game, it relies heavily on not turning the ball over. It's what they do best. So to start this game, they were a little bit sloppy for that first quarter, but they really tightened it up after that and ended up around about their average number of turnovers, slightly below, in fact. The key thing, though, in this game, I think certainly in the first half, was Collingwood's ability to get the contested marks. They ended up having 22-7 in the contested mark tally. Most of that was in the first half. I think at one point it was like 14-3 or something ridiculous like that. And it just shows, how this game was kind of controlled in that first half, I guess, for Collingwood, was their ability to win those contested marks, control the air, and in the end led to a really, really strong win. 31-19 shots, so they certainly had a lot more of it in going at goal. They scored pretty accurately to kick 17 goals from 31 shots. Is a pretty good return. In the end, they should have won. They did win. I think that's basically the sum up of this match. What else do we need to look at here? Turnover game was where Collingwood won it, as they've won many games this year. It's their best part of their game. 72-28 from turnover scoring. Stoppage was pretty similar, 42-30 in Collingwood's favour, which isn't bad when they had 11 less clearances than Carlton. Centre bounce is where Collingwood did some damage here. 4 goals straight. They're not known for getting a huge amount of goals from the centre bounce, but they certainly did in this one. It was Darcy Cameron down to Pendlebury multiple times in this game. Tom Mitchell was outstanding as well in his first game in that clearance work as well. Forward half scoring 50-40 in favour of Collingwood, but from the defensive half, Collingwood did pretty well in this one. 41-17. A look at some of the goal kickers in this one, just because we always kind of look at goal kickers as well. Collingwood had the better multiple goal scorers. McStay and Elliott both kicking 4 goals apiece. Elliott 4 goals 3, so could have had a day out. Myercheck and Membry both kicked 2. For Carlton, Zach Williams kicked 3 and was subbed out at 3/4 time. Jesse Motlop kicked 2. A look at the best players. Brownlow votes, I think, all go Collingwood's way. Nick Dacos, I think, should get the 3 votes in this one. I'd be very surprised to see him not get 3 votes. Scott Pendlebury, I think, can get 2 here, mainly because of his centre clearance work. He had multiple times where he just ran out of the middle. Jamie Elliott, for his 4 goals, I've given 1, but it could also go to Dan McStay, maybe. Zach Williams would be in the conversation as well. He did get subbed out at 3/4 time, so obviously was not seen in the last quarter, so that might affect his ability, but he was really good in those first 3 quarters. By far Carlton's best player for the game, and he didn't play the last quarter. He ended up with 19 touches, 3 goals. Was the only one that looked like scoring in that forward half for Carlton for a majority of this game, so he was really good. MVP votes for the winning team. Nick Dacos 10. Darcy Cameron was great again with 8. Dan McStay, the big fella up forward, he only had 10 touches, 4 goals, but he was just very, very good when he was around the ball. He was also the backup ruckman. Jack Crisp gets the 4. Scotty Pendlebury the 2. For Carlton, as I said, Zach Williams was clearly their best player. He gets 5. Ollie Hollands gets 4. Mark Pittenay gets 3. Adam Chera 2. And Sam Doherty, probably close to his best game of the year, gets the 1. Looking forward for both these teams, obviously Collingwood is sitting quite comfortably at the top of the ladder right now. 2.5 games clear. They have Gold Coast on the Gold Coast next Friday night. That is a massive game for both teams. Probably more so for Gold Coast. Just a chance for them to prove themselves against one of the best teams at home. Can they get it done? So that will be a cracker on Friday night. Carlton, their season is officially done now, in all honesty. They can't do much with the rest of their season other than play for pride and see where they're at, I guess. They're sitting 12th on the ladder. They host Brisbane at Marvel Stadium this weekend. It's a chance for them to front up against another good team. In all honesty, it's one that they could win if they bring their best, but we're just not seeing their best from them at the moment. So you'd imagine it's probably going to be a tough game for them again this weekend. Moving on to the other Friday night game of the weekend. It was West Coast GWS. This was at Optus Stadium over in the West. And once again, like a lot of the games this weekend, it was a bit of a blowout, bit of a one-sided affair. Went the way we kind of expected it to. GWS winning it by 59 points, 111-52. It was a bit of a fiery game. Bit to be said about the Tom Green Harley Reid matchup, Toby Green Harley Reid as well. There was a bit of niggle here and there throughout this game, but quarter time it looked like it was probably going to end up close to a 100-point margin. Half time still kind of looking that way. 3/4 time still potentially going that way, but West Coast never fully just let them get away. Obviously, they won by 59 points, but it could have been a whole lot worse. You look at the team ratings done by All Aussie Rules, and it was 52.08 to a 39.01, so really high score from GWS, really low from West Coast. Anything under 40 is quite poor. Look, it went the way we expected. They didn't fully blow them out, but they certainly never looked like losing this game at any point of the match. We'll look at some key team stats for this one. It's pretty much how you'd expect it. Plus 70 disposals, GWS. They are a high disposal team, but plus 21 inside 50s. Ball 54.1% of the time in their forward half. Dominated the contested football, did the Giants. It was a high turnover game. 93 to 80 intercepts. So GWS won that area of the game, but 93 to 80 is absurdly high. Clearance game plus 8 for GWS. Pretty much everywhere you look, they just won this game. 33 to 19 shots suggests once again that GWS were just controlling it in so many ways. Scoring wise, GWS did pretty well from stoppage, 43 to 13, but they also controlled the turnover, 68 to 31. Forward half scoring, 57 to 32. And another team, so this is like 3 teams this weekend already, 1 in each match, that has scored really well from centre bounce. 5 goals, 3, 33. When GWS are up and about, this is what they do. They manage to kick goals, and multiple goals from the centre without even the opposition touching the ball like multiple times in short periods of the game. They did it again here against West Coast, and West Coast had no answer for them. There's no doubt about it. So that pretty much sums up the team side of things. A look at the multiple goal kickers in this one. Toby Green kicked 3 goals in this match. I think he went past 400 goals for his career as well. Outstanding effort. Xavier O'Halloran, Josh Kelly, Darcy Jones and Aaron Cadman all kicked 2 goals. And Job Shanahan in his second match managed to kick 2 goals as well for West Coast. Brownlow votes, Finn Callaghan I think was clearly best on ground in this game. He was absolutely outstanding. 37 touches, 6 clearances, 1 goal, 854 metres gained. Absolutely outstanding. Tom Green also had an absolute ton of the football, 35 touches. I've given him 2 votes. And I think Xavier O'Halloran might have played his best game of AFL football here. 27 touches, 2 goals, 6 clearances, 645 metres gained. He was really, really good. And on most days, he's going to be getting votes for that sort of performance. So hopefully for his sake, he does maybe get a vote or 2 in this game. Jumping into MVP votes for this one. For the winning team, as I said, Finn Callaghan was best on ground. He was outstanding. He gets the 10. 8 to Xavier O'Halloran. 6 to Kieran Briggs in his return game in the ruck. 4 to Tom Green. And 2 to Josh Kelly, who played maybe his best game of the season so far. Over the other side of the fence, Ryan Marrick gets the 5. He's been really good this season. One of their bright lights from the season so far. He had 20 touches in this one. Was very important in many ways. Ruben Ginby gets the 4. He was good. 3 to Job Shanahan, as I said, second game, kicked a couple goals, was very good. Tom McCarthy, he's only his 3rd game, and he was outstanding as he has been in all 3 games. Probably his lowest rated game so far, but still, he was very good. And 1 to Jack Graham. West Coast just got pumped. It's what we expected from them. They're just not at the level of the top teams. There's no doubt about it. They were good against Collingwood the week before, but GWS just did not give them any of that ability to control any parts of this game. I look forward to next week. GWS go back home, and they've got Geelong, so 8th on the ladder GWS versus 4th on the ladder Geelong at NG Stadium. Massive game Saturday, twilight game, 4:15 start. That should be a cracker. So that one's straight after the Bulldogs Adelaide game. Saturday afternoon football delivering next weekend. So that will be a good one. And then Sunday is when West Coast play. They'll be heading to Adelaide Oval for the twilight Sunday match against Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. West Coast, obviously 18th on the ladder, just the one win so far this year. Going up against Port Adelaide, who were good this weekend without winning their game, but were pretty solid, no doubt about it. So that's how both teams line up next weekend. We jump into Saturday football. We start with the Bombers Gold Coast. This one was at Marvel Stadium. And Bombers put up a fight for 3 quarters for sure. But they just didn't have anything left to give, I don't think, in that last quarter. With a few minutes to go in the third quarter, the Bombers were actually leading this one before Benny King kicked a goal just before 3-quarter time to give them a 3-point lead going into the final quarter. And then the final quarter was all one-way traffic. It was 6 goals, 3 to the Bombers, 0-1. So Gold Coast kicked the last 7 of the game, win the game in the end by 41 points. That tells you all you need to know. It was a chance for the Bombers. They played really well for most of this game. But in the end, the Suns got the job done. Which for them is a huge result. They obviously lost at Marvel the first time they played there this year. They have won now 2 in a row. So things are looking okay for Suns. They'll be really happy with this win in the end. Might not have been their best performance ever, but they certainly did everything they needed to. As you can see, or I'll tell you the team ratings for the game. 49-1-6 for Gold Coast, so pretty high rating. Just a 42-7-9 for the Bombers. Tells you everything you need to know. Gold Coast probably should have been further ahead than they were, but they got it done when they needed to. Total disposals in this game, plus 26 for Gold Coast. Inside 50s was actually won by the Bombers, plus 2. However, metres gained. Gold Coast had an extra 800 metres gained in this match, which is just a wild little stat for you, really. The fact that Essendon had more inside 50s. And that just tells you, I think, that Essendon had a lot of repeat inside 50s and had periods where they controlled the ground and kept going in. But Gold Coast would bounce it a lot more often and have to bring it from further back. The ball also spent more time in Essendon's forward half than Gold Coast, 51.6% in Essendon. So just some weird little stats, I guess. Their intercepts total was Essendon plus 1, so another area that they're pretty good. Gold Coast won clearances by 3, nothing massive there. Shots ended up being 18 for Gold Coast, 29 for Gold Coast, 18 goals, and 19 for the Bombers for 11 goals. So, pretty good efficiency from both teams, I think, is basically the sum up of it. Looking at where they got their scores from, it was stoppage for Gold Coast, 43-22. They were also okay from turnover, 66. They do tend to concede a little bit more from turnover than most teams in that top bit of the ladder, but they also score really well from turnover. Defensive half, 44-26. That kind of tells you what we were saying. They did have to go the full length of the ground quite a few times. 58-44 from forward half in favour of Gold Coast, and 13-4 from centre bounce. A look at the goal kickers in this one. For Gold Coast, Ben King kicked 4 goals, 3 to Ethan Reid, Bailey Humphrey and Noah Anderson both kicked 2. For the Bombers, it was Archer May kicking 3 and Nate Caddy also kicking 3 goals. Do we need it? So Brownlow votes, this could go a whole host of directions. I've gone Zach Merritt, even though they lost by 40-odd points. I think he was best on ground. He was outstanding. They had him playing midfield this week, and he showed why he should be in there every single week. He was absolutely best on ground. Certainly at 3-quarter time, he was best on ground. I know they got pumped in the end a bit, but his rating was outstanding. He did everything he could. Joel Jeffrey was Gold Coast's best player. I've given him 2. Noah Anderson 1. Miller's probably the next one in line if they don't go to Merritt at all, but I think they have to. I think they will notice how good he was in this game. He had 40 touches, 17 of those contested, 5 intercepts, 12 clearances, Like, he did everything. He put the team on his back. Just couldn't get him over the line. MVP votes for Gold Coast goes Joel Jeffrey for 10, Noah Anderson 8, Miller gets the 6, Fiorini gets the 4, and Bodie Uland gets the 2. And for the Bombers, as I said, Zach Merritt was outstanding. He gets the 5. Sam Durham gets the 4. Kako gets the 3. He was quite good. Didn't have a heap of the football. I mean, he got 17 touches, which is probably almost a career high. He had 3 shots on goal just for 1 goal. So could have had a really good game. Todd Goldstein gets the 2. He was good in ruck. And 1 for Jai Caldwell to wrap it up for the Bombers. A look towards next week for both of these teams. As we have already mentioned, Gold Coast are hosting Collingwood, 7th on the ladder Gold Coast right now. So a massive opportunity for them. They have played 1 less game than everyone else. But if they do win this one against Collingwood, top 4 is well and truly an option for them this season. The Bombers, their season, while officially done, they're not making finals from where they are. Technically they could, but they won't. They're heading to the MCG for the Tigers on Saturday night. 17th on the ladder Tigers. So a really good opportunity, I think, for the Bombers to get a win here. It won't be easy. They're copying a lot of injuries week in, week out. But the young players are putting up good fights. And I think they should be just too good for Richmond. So they should get an opportunity for a win this weekend. Moving into the next game, speaking of Richmond, they headed down the highway to Geelong and copped a 72-point thrashing. Geelong won this one convincingly, as we expected would happen. First quarter was pretty low scoring, but the second quarter, the Cats turned it on. They were 59 points up at half-time. It extended out to 73 at three-quarter time. Before the final quarter was a bit of an arm wrestle between the two teams. But the Cats got the job done, as was expected from them here. A look at, obviously, team ratings. We start with team ratings. Geelong 51-48, Richmond at 39-12. So not too dissimilar from the previous game. The difference being Geelong took their chances and win the game massively. Not too much difference in disposal counts, just plus 27 for Geelong. Not a huge difference in the grand scheme of it, but metres gained plus 1,300 metres. Inside 50s plus 21. Forward half time 56% in Geelong's forward half. Contested football plus 17. Intercepts plus 5 for Geelong. Clearances plus 9 for Geelong. It was controlled. Without being an absolute smashing in every category, they certainly controlled every single category. Ended up being 38 shots to 16, so potentially could have been an even bigger margin. Potentially. They tackled well, Geelong, as well. They did a lot of things right in this game. They chained the ball really well. Richmond couldn't stop them. Funnily enough, there was 5 goals kicked from kick-ins in this game, which is very, very high. 2 goals for Geelong, 3 goals for Richmond. So 1 positive for the Tigers. 3 out of their 7 goals came from kick-in. That's crazy numbers. Stoppages, 45-13 in favour of Geelong. But as is most weeks, turnover game was really good for Geelong. 66-21 scoring there. Defensive half, 41-31 in favour of Geelong. Forward half, though, 66-21. So when they gained the ball in their forward half, they made use of it a lot of times. Centre bounce could have been an absolute whitewash for Geelong. They kicked 2 goals 5. So imagine if it was 5-2. Meanwhile, Richmond didn't get a score from centre bounce in this match. Look at the multiple goal scorers. Jeremy Cameron could have had an absolute day out in this one. He had 10 shots at goal for 4 goals 5, 19 touches. Could have had an absolute day out, which would have put him miles ahead in the Coleman. Shannon Neal kicked 3, Dangerfield, Brad Close and Jack Bowies all kicked 2. And for the Tigers, there was 1 multiple goal scorer, and that was Ryan Mansell kicking 3 goals from 22 touches. A pretty solid game from him. Brownlow votes could go many, many ways for this Geelong team. They would clearly get all 3 best on grounds, but the 3 Brownlow vote getters, I think. I've gone Max Holmes 3, Zach Guthrie 2, and George Stevens on debut as a late in. I've given 1. He was outstanding. 21 touches and a goal, 8 clearances, 2 goal assists, and I think like 14 score involvements. Outstanding game from the debutant. But other players that could also get votes, I mean, Cameron, if he had a kick straighter, probably definitely would have got votes, maybe now. Jack Martin, he was junk time mainly though. Brian Myers, I think, will definitely be in the conversation. He had 29 touches. Could have had a really good day as well. Kicked a couple behinds. Dangerfield may be in the conversation. If anyone from Richmond will be in the conversation, it will be Ryan Mansell, but I just don't think he will be quite there. MVP votes, we've gone Brian Myers for 10. Zach Guthrie gets the 8. Jeremy Cameron gets 6. Maxie Holmes 4. And Paddy Dangerfield sneaks into 5th for 2 votes. For the Tigers, it's Ryan Mansell 5. Maurice Rioli with 4. Toby Nankervis gets the 3. Sam Banks 2. Jacob Hopper for the 1 vote. A look towards next week for both of these teams. Geelong, they're going to NG Stadium for GWS 4th v 8th on the ladder, as we've already discussed. A really big game, that one. And as we mentioned just before, Richmond are hosting the Bombers at the MCG on Saturday night. So that will be an interesting one for both teams. I mean, their seasons are done, but we'll see how it plays out. We move on to Saturday night football. There was 2 games on at the same time. Why are we clashing games? Who knows? But that's what the AFL does to us. And this was, for the first time on the weekend, a game that stayed relatively close, even though at times it looked like it was going to be a blowout. And ended up only being a 28-point margin. Brisbane win it 120-92 at the Gabba. Port Adelaide actually kicked like 3 of the first 4 goals of this match and looked like they were going to be super competitive. But then the Lions absolutely tore them to shreds late in the first quarter, kicking the last 7 goals of the first quarter from the 17-minute mark until the 33-minute mark. So 16 minutes of real time, the Brisbane Lions kicked 7 goals. And from that point, it kind of stayed around about the same margin. Goal here, goal there. Couple times one team would kick 3 in a row, then the other would kick 3 in a row. Ends up being, I won't say super comfortable margin, but comfortable enough in favour of the Lions. We look at some of the key stats. Team ratings-wise, Brisbane are 46-26, so nothing outstanding. Pretty average performance from them. A 42-6-5 from Port Adelaide. I feel like they deserve a little bit better than that in this game, but apparently that's how the ratings worked. Port Adelaide actually had 7 more disposals, equal amount of inside 50s at 55 apiece, but Brisbane plus 500 metres gained, or 400, almost 500 metres gained. Port Adelaide really good in the contest, plus 3 in contested football, only minus 3 in ground ball gets. Intercepts, Brisbane won that area plus 6. Clearances plus 2 in favour of Brisbane. Intercept marks is where Brisbane turned this one around. So obviously intercepts is really big, but intercept marks is massive because it's a clean possession. Brisbane won at 18-8 intercept marks. Shots on goal 30-23 in favour of Brisbane, so they were the expected winner and they did do that. What else is there that's interesting from this game? Transition numbers really high from Brisbane. 40% of the time from D50 to forward 50. That's a really high rate. And almost 50% of the time they got the ball in the defensive half, they got it to the forward 50. So that's massive numbers. No massive differences in either team in terms of score sources or score origin. Pretty close across the board. Stoppages 54-45 in favour of Brisbane. 65-46 from turnover. Defensive half was really close, 53-49, and forward half was 47-29 in favour of Brisbane. 5 goals kicked from centre bounce, 3 for Brisbane, 2 for Port Adelaide. All we've got to look at now is multiple goal kickers. And the key one in this game, I think, was Zach Bailey. 26 touches he had, but he also kicked 5 goals. He should definitely get the 3 Brownlow votes. Charlie Cameron kicked 3 goals in what was probably his best game of this year. One of his best games of the last 2 seasons. For Port Adelaide, it was Mitch Georgiadis kicking 4 goals. Only had the 10 touches, but made use of them with 4 goals. Willie Rioli and Jack Lukosius coming back into the team was really good. Both kicking 3 goals. Sam Powell-Pepper kicked 2 goals. Unfortunately for him, may have done his ACL. I haven't had confirmation of that yet, but it certainly looked like it might be. So that's gutting for Sam Powell-Pepper. A look at Brownlow votes, as I said, I think the 3 has to go towards Zach Bailey. 26 touches, 5 goals is an outstanding performance. Hugh McCluggage was really good in the midfield. I've gone Zach Butters for 1 vote. There's other players that certainly will be in the conversation. Lachie Neale, Connor Rose, Will Ashcroft, all definite chances of votes as well. I think the main one is Zach Bailey gets 3, and I think Hugh McCluggage probably deserves a vote as well, whether it's 1 or 2. MVP voting, Brisbane, obviously Zach Bailey was their highest rated player. He was outstanding. Hugh McCluggage 8, Lachie Neale gets the 6, Will Ashcroft 4, and Dane Zorko sneaks in for 2 votes in this one. For Port Adelaide, it was their top 2 up the top. Connor Rose 5, Zach Butters 4, Miles Bergman 3, Ollie Wines 2, and as I said, Jack Lukosius was really good in his first game back. Only his 3rd game, I think, for the Power was really good. He gets 1 vote here. A look towards next week for both of these teams. Brisbane have a Thursday night football, so just a 5-day break for them. Last time they had a 5-day break, they got beaten by Collingwood by 50 points, so they'll be wanting to do better than that here against Carlton at Marvel Stadium, Thursday night football. Big one for them, 2nd v12. If they want to stay within touching distance of Collingwood, they need to be winning these games. Meanwhile, Port Adelaide, they might be falling too far behind now, but they would need a miracle to play finals. They don't play until Sunday afternoon. They're 11th on the ladder right now, and they've got West Coast Eagles at Adelaide Oval. Certainly a game that they should be winning, but I think they're just too far back. With their bad percentage, plus being 3 games out of the 8, I find it hard to see them catching that up. There was one more game on Saturday night. It was at the exact same time. It was St Kilda, Hawthorn. It was at Marvel Stadium. And St Kilda put up a really good fight, in all honesty. They really did. They only lose this one by 20 points. They were right in it most of the way through. They were level late in the second quarter. Hawthorn did kick away. They got out by 25, 26 points multiple times. But every time St Kilda just stayed in it. In the end, though, they just could never quite bring them back. And in the end, the Hawks win it by 20 points. Team rating, Hawthorn 45-5-4, so solid enough number. St Kilda, though, 44-2-6. A really good losing number, that one. So a really good performance from St Kilda. I think when you look at it, I think that's how you've got to see it. Key stats in this one suggest that it was a close game. 18 difference in disposals in the positive side for St Kilda. That was a weird way of saying that, but they were also plus 11 inside 50s, but Hawthorn did have the ball slightly more in the forward half, 50.8 to St Kilda's 49.2. Contested football went the way of St Kilda, plus 18. Really good performance from them in that regard. Ground ball gets, plus 40 almost, in favour of St Kilda. Intercepts was only plus 3 Hawthorn, so once again, pretty good number from St Kilda, plus 4 in clearances for St Kilda. They had 1 extra shot, according to data, 27-26. This should have been closer than it was, I think, is basically the sum up of this match. It was 10-14 to 14-10. that tells you that both teams probably had their chances and it should have been a close game. So St Kilda probably kicking themselves a little bit. It was a solid performance, but at the end of the day, honourable losses don't get you that much. Scoring from stoppages, 35 for St Kilda, 39 Hawthorn. From turnover, though, 53 Hawthorn to 38 St Kilda. Defensive half, also Hawthorn were really good, 53 to 31. Whereas forward half was St Kilda's side of the fence, 41 to 27. Goal kickers in this one goes for the winning team, Hawthorn. Jack Gunston continued his great form this season, kicked 3. Nick Watson and Marbal Charles both kicked 2. And for the Saints, it was Max Hall with 3, Jack Higgins with 2. Brownlow votes, there's a lot of players that could be in this discussion. I think St Kilda genuinely had the top 2 or 3 players on the field. I've got Max Hall 3. He had 27 touches, 3 goals, 587 metres gained, and was really good early. I think it's him and Nashaya were the best 2. I've got Max Hall 3 just because he rated higher in our rating system. But Naz was absolutely great. Wangani Malira, 43 touches, 1,000 metres gained. The one thing that let him down was his kicking at goal 0-3 for the match. If he had have kicked even a couple goals, it would have been huge for him and the team. He had 4 shots at goal for his 0-3, so it could have been the difference and would have been certainly 3 votes if he had kicked a couple goals. Jai Newcombe, I think, was Hawthorn's best, but they had a whole range of really good performers. Lloyd Meek was outstanding. I think he was actually their best player. However, in terms of Brownlow voting, I think it would be Jai Newcombe. But both of them are a chance. Josh Battle was good. Impey was good. Plenty of others were as well. So I've gone Hall, Wangani Malira, Jai Newcombe for the Brownlow votes. For the MVP votes for the winning team, Hawthorn, Lloyd Meek, as I said, was their highest rated player. He gets the 10, 59 hit-outs for the game. Josh Battle, he's been really good and was good in this one against his old team. He gets 8. Jai Newcombe gets the 6, Impey gets the 4, and Harry Morrison, the outside runner, gets 2 votes. For the Saints, as I said, Max Hall rated the highest, 5. Wangani Malira for Ryan. I don't know where I got Ryan from. Rowan Marshall gets 3. And Jack McRae 2. Jack Steele gets 1 vote. That's the top 5 for both teams. I look towards next week for both of these teams as well. For St Kilda, first of all, they host Sydney on Sunday afternoon at Marvel Stadium. So 15th v 10. Sydney lose that. That's season over. So that's a good chance for St Kilda to effectively end a team's season. Hawthorn, they have a Saturday night trip over to the west, Optus Stadium for Fremantle. Massive game for both teams. Fremantle we'll get to in a minute, but they lost this weekend. They're sitting 9th on the ladder. If they're to lose again, this one at home, wowee, they'll start to just drop away from that top 8, and that would be very dangerous. So very, very important game for Fremantle. And likewise for Hawthorn, they want to play top 4. If they want to make the top 4, they can't be losing too many games throughout the rest of the season. So they won't want to be losing this weekend. Alrighty, we've just got the 2 Sunday games left to look at. First up was Sydney Fremantle. It was at the SCG on Sunday afternoon. And the Swans get it done. The only team in the bottom 9 this weekend that got the win. They did go in favourites, granted, because it was in Sydney. But a good win for them nonetheless. Just gives them a slight sniff at September action. 11-point winners over the Dockers, who... it's a dangerous loss for them, there's no doubt about it. Drops them to 9th on the ladder after a really good run of 6 wins in a row, I think it was. They'll be disappointed. There's no doubt about that one. So I'll look at this game, how it kind of played out. First of all, Sydney led pretty much start to finish here. Never convincingly. They got out to 20 points a couple times. It got within a kick multiple times throughout the game, especially in that last quarter. But in the end, Sydney did what Sydney needed to do, and they got the win. So that's basic timeline of the match. I don't think there's anything too exciting in that timeline. Sydney had plus 20 disposals, minus 3 inside 50s though, so Fremantle certainly had their opportunities here, just didn't take them all the time. Stoppage game, clearance game was all Sydney, plus 9, plus 4 in centre clearances, which in the first half at one point I think it was 6 or 7-0, so Fremantle certainly pulled that back from a really slow start in the centre clearance game. They brought it back a little bit, but ended up still losing clearances by 9 for the match. Contested footy, plus 4 for Freo. Uncontested though, plus 10 for Sydney. Turnover game, Fremantle actually won just the 56 turnovers for the match, whereas Sydney had 61. But Sydney controlled uncontested game, also marks in the game. Tackles also was massive, Sydney, 81, which is plus 20 on their average, whereas Fremantle went below their average. Anyone that's been keeping up to date, I don't know what it was on, Fox Footy or somewhere, over the last week, there was a lot of talk about Caleb Sarong wins v losses and how he averages like 30 touches this season in wins and under 22 or under 23 in losses. And this was the perfect example of this. Fremantle lost. Caleb Sarong struggled to get the football. Had just 11 disposals for the game. So that basically tells you everything you need to know. I think they just need to find a way when pretty much it's the blueprint to beat Fremantle right now is shut down Caleb Sarong and you shut down the Dockers. Team rating of 48.18 for Sydney, so one of their better performances of the year. On the other side of the fence, it was Fremantle, a 40.89, which is certainly one of their worst performances, definitely worst performance in 6 or 7 weeks. So, that basically, team-wise, everything you need to know about this game. Multiple goal kickers in this one. For Sydney, it was McLean with 3, Lloyd, Jordan, and Joel Amartey all kicking 2. And for the Dockers, Josh Tracy kicked 2, as did Luke Jackson. Brownlow votes, I'm going Errol Goulden in just his 3rd game back. Last week he was outstanding. This week I think he was even better. Andrew Brayshaw, 2 votes, he was Fremantle's best. And 1 vote, Brodie Grundy has been absolutely tearing it up. His last 8 weeks now has been fantastic. I've been going to make a graphic about it and post it somewhere, but I've just kept forgetting to do it, in all honesty. In his first 7 games or 8 games this season, he had 1 game rated as elite, and then in the last 6 games before this week, 5 out of his 6 had been elite. This one, not 100% sure, but he'll be very close to rated as elite again, I would imagine. Putting together, all of a sudden, a really good season. He's into the top 5 ruckman in the competition for the year. He's a big chance to be a top 3 ruckman across the whole course of the season. After a slow start, that's a fantastic effort. He's really, really turned it around. So, well done to him. Big shout out to Brodie Grundy. So I'm giving him a vote. MVP votes for the winning team. Brodie Grundy gets the 10. Just to run through some of his numbers. 20 touches, 12 clearances, 33 hitouts, and a goal. Just fantastic. Lloyd gets the 8, 20 touches, 2 goals. 6 for Errol Goulden, 25 touches and a goal, as well as 5 clearances, 8 tackles. Nick Blakey gets the 4, Chad Warner gets the 2. And for Fremantle, it was Andrew Brayshaw was best on, I think, for them. 24 touches, 4 clearances. Corey Wagner, he was really good, 22 touches and a goal. Murphy Reid, little quiet achiever. I've been a big fan of him all year. He had 15 touches and a goal. He was really solid. Luke Ryan was solid enough, as was Bailey Banfield. A look towards next week for both of these teams. As we've already mentioned, Fremantle host Hawthorn in what is potentially their biggest game of the season so far. Lose and they're in trouble. Win, they stay with the 8. So massive, massive ramifications for them. Sydney, they head to Melbourne, Marvel Stadium, St Kilda. They pretty much can't afford to lose another game this year, just about, if they want to make finals. So they have to go down to Melbourne and beat St Kilda. Pretty much sums up what they need. One more game to look at from the weekend of round 17, and it was over in Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. It was the Crows, it was the Demons. What a weird old game this one was. It started off pretty even through most of the first quarter. Melbourne did kick the first. Adelaide kicked the next couple. Had a 3-point lead at quarter time. And then straight out of quarter time break, Melbourne just went bonkers. Every time they went forward, they kicked a goal. They kicked the first 5, I think, of the second quarter, to at one point be leading 6-2 in the match. It came out of nowhere too, but it was just like really good forward efficiency. Pickett, Van Rooyen kicked 2 in a row, then Melksham, and then back to Pickett. So an absolute dominant not even 10-minute period really. Well, pretty much exactly 10 minutes. It took them in real life time to kick 5 goals and turn the game on its head. But that kind of woke the Crows up. And from that point on, it was mostly controlled by Adelaide throughout the majority of the rest of the game. Ends up being 13-point win, to Adelaide. Certainly not comfortable. Certainly not confident win. But they got the job done. And that's all that, I guess, in the end, they need to do. You can't do any more than win the game. You can obviously win by more, but you don't get more for it. You get more percentage. But you get what I'm saying. In this game, Melbourne controlled the football for chunks of it. 390 disposals to 320, so had a lot more of the football. Inside 50s was actually plus 13 to Adelaide though, but it was just that efficiency that Melbourne had going forward. 42 inside 50s for 11 goals is a really good return. It was even better than that at halftime. They were looking outstanding. So just a weird sort of game. Plus 6 clearances Adelaide's way. Uncontested and contested football both went the way of Melbourne. The thing I do not get about this game at all is the high turnover numbers for both teams. Neither team could look after the football. 81 for Adelaide, which is ridiculous. In the conditions that they were playing in, ridiculous amount of turnovers. 14 above their season average, and they've played multiple games in the wet this year. So, they got away with it, but they could not look after the football today, and that's probably the thing to take out of the game for the Crows. I think is their poor ball use and poor ability of looking after the football. I mean, Melbourne still had 79, so only 2 less turnovers, but for a team that's trying to play top 4 football this year in Adelaide, they're not going to beat top teams if they turn it over 81 times in perfect conditions. It's just, you're not going to win. You won't win against a decent team doing that. Tackles, 53 apiece. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Multiple goal kickers. For Adelaide, Rankin kicked 5. Tex Walker kicked 2. Ben Keys and Darcy Fogarty also kicked 2 each. For the Demons, it was Jake Melksham. 2 weeks in a row he's kicked a bag. 4 this week. Jacob Van Rooyen and Cozzy Pickett both kicking 2 goals each. Both of them kicking both of their goals in that second quarter. Best players, Brownlow votes. Brownlow votes first. We've gone Isaac Rankin with 3. He had 16 touches, 5 goals. He was very important in this win. No doubt about it. 2, I've gone for Kashaya Pickett. 24 touches, 2 goals. I think he was Melbourne's best player. And Jack Viney, I think, was also very good for the Demons. He had 30 touches in this game. Other players that are in contention, I mean, there's probably a whole host of them for Adelaide. Whether Dawson gets votes, it's possible. He had 25 touches. Peatling had 6 clearances, 25 touches. He's going to be in the conversation. Ben Keys, 24 touches, 2 goals, 3. So those sort of players are all a chance. MVP votes for this one. We've gone Isaac Rankin with 10. Jake Saligo with 8. Sam Berry, 6. Jordan Dawson gets the 4. And James Peatling gets the 2. For the Demons, it's Trent Rivers, 5. Melksham, 4. Jack Viney gets the 3. Cozzy Pickett gets the 2. And Stephen May gets the 1 vote. Look towards next week for both of these teams. Obviously, Adelaide will do first. They're sitting third on the ladder. They have the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. Big game Saturday afternoon. Huge ramifications for both teams. If the Crows win that, they really give themselves a great chance at top 4 this season. Meanwhile, Melbourne are hosting North Melbourne at the MCG Sunday afternoon. Probably one of the least watched games of football next weekend. Up there with Richmond Bombers. Maybe even Port Adelaide West Coast as well. There's a few bottom 9 teams playing each other next weekend. Not a great game on paper, but hey, it might turn out to be pretty good. Melbourne, funnily enough, rated higher than Adelaide according to our rating system this week. So that shows how bad Adelaide were, and they still got the 4 points. So a positive there for Adelaide, I guess. We'll jump into our footy tips for the weekend and how they went. No, we won't. We'll do that after. We're doing Brownlow Leaderboard first. I've done it in the wrong order, apparently. But that is okay. This is our Brownlow Leaderboard after round 17. Jordan Dawson and Nick Dacos, equal leaders on 21 votes. Right behind them is Caleb Sarong and Max Holmes. Don't know why it's so not quite lined up, but don't worry about that. Sarong and Max Holmes both on 20. Bailey Smith on 18. Brayshaw, Newcomb and Rose all on 16. Hewitt and Rankin on 16, and then 15 for McCluggage, Merritt, Anderson, Butters and Wanganeen Malira. Don't know why I couldn't line them up, but that's the order. So Dawson and Dacos. All of a sudden, Dacos is putting a run together. His last few weeks has got him quite a few votes and got him back in contention. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. As always, this goes out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so make sure wherever you're watching you do follow or subscribe. Don't forget to check out the social medias as well. We post stuff every single day on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We've got plenty of football content for you, so go check all of that out. Let's jump into our MVP leaderboard. Hopefully this is all lined up. It looks more lined up than my Brownlow one, so good from me. Leading after round 17 is Hugh McCluggage on 81.5, narrowly ahead of Tristan Cherry from the Kangaroos on 79.5. Noah Anderson on 79, and we've got a three-way tie. 78 votes for Dacos, Brayshaw and Bailey Smith, who's missing quite a few games lately. Connor Rose on 77, Sarong on 73, Max Gorn 72, and then four-way tie on 70. Max Holmes, Matty Rao, Tom Green, and Brodie Grundy, who's putting together a fine little stint, as we mentioned before. We'll jump into our tips, and like many people this week, we went 9 of 9. 2 weeks in a row, we've gone perfect. Bulldogs, Friday night, got the job done against the Kangaroos by 49 points, so we went a little bit unders there. Collingwood beat Carlton by 56, once again a little bit unders. Giants by 37, we said they won by 59, so slightly off again. Gold Coast by 45, they won by 41, so we were pretty close on that one. Geelong won by 72, so once again only 4 points off when we said 76. Brisbane, too good for Port Adelaide, once again pretty close. They won by 28 points. Hawthorn by 20, not too bad from us, we said 5. And then the last two games, Sydney by 4, we said they won by 11, so pretty close. And then Adelaide, we went overs by a bit. We said 48, they only won by 13. But we went 9 of 9 for the week, 99 out of 143 on the season. And that is how our tips look after round 17. Good couple weeks in a row for tipping. Things on the way up. That's everything we've got for you here in round 17. Don't forget we do 2 episodes of the podcast every single week. This one, that is the review episode, goes live every Monday, pretty much Monday morning, sometimes Monday afternoon, evening, depending on what time the games finish on Sunday. And then we have our preview episode that goes live every Thursday, previewing the upcoming round of football. So that'll be coming up very, very soon, just a few days away. Also, AFLW season is only around the corner. It's just, a month pretty much exactly until that season starts. So we're going to have plenty of that content coming your way as well. So make sure you jump in the comments below. Follow me on my socials. Let me know what AFLW content you want to see. I really do enjoy the AFLW football. So I'll be bringing that sort of content all season along as well. That's everything from me. I'm Jay. This is All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back on Thursday with episode 47 and a round 18 preview. Until then, enjoy.